What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and whatever time it is, and welcome back to another video with you, man, Immersioholic. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my Parthian campaign for the Divided Impera Overhaul mod for Total War Rome 2. Today, we are finally at episode 8. Now, this video will be a little bit longer than normal to compensate for us not having a Parthian episode out last week. Apologies for that. Exams kicked my ass, as did a few school projects. Plus, I also had to dedicate some extra time to the new DEI preview that was released by the devs. So if you guys do want to find out what's happening in the next DEI update, make sure you go check that out on my channel. But anyway, in the meantime, we need to figure out what is happening with Parthia. Our last episode saw everything absolutely going wrong, and we're dealing with the consequences now. Armenia has one of their best generals leading a massive army with a lot of pikemen, by the way, deep into the territory of Palmyra. They captured the city of Jura. However, the capital of Palmyra itself, is still standing, so that is still a little bit of bastion of resistance in the west. Meanwhile, in the northeast, all the way up at Tushpa, Armenian rebels actually took over the city after Armenia took it from us, so that's actually kind of good for us, although they still hate us and they're not fighting their fellow Armenians, so that is going to be a big concern. We expect them to send armies against us soon. Meanwhile, the Kartli is sending down massive armies against us. They are the client state of the Armenians, and they have some very solid elite infantry coming our way. In addition, the Armenian king himself, or their Arka, is leading some small raiding parties in the far east of Mesopotamia, which is sapping our income. It actually does 100% damage to our income for that region, and this is basically our only region, so that is terrible. In the meantime, Salukia is under attack, under siege specifically, and the Kartli have another massive army coming down to help out that sieging army. So basically, we're getting attacked from all sides right now, and we only have one substantial army. At the capital itself, we have Arsaces III leading a very professional contingent of Babylonian spearmen alongside the massive but still pretty weak Salukia garrison. I thought about attacking that Kartli army before their reinforcements arrived, but I thought better of it, and it's actually a good idea that we did. But in the meantime, though, Arsaces II is being attacked by that very, very skilled Armenian general who led the invasion of Syria, led the invasion of Palmyra, and now he is marching Armenia into the heartland of Mesopotamia. Arsaces II cannot allow this to happen, so let's get on the battlefield. And here we are on the battlefield. Of course, we have an entirely all-cavalry army for Arsaces here, so we'll be seeing a lot of horse archer tactics happening with our shock cavalry in the rear, with Arsaces himself here on horseback, leading with his cool little headband he's got going on. Just came from the gym, got on his horse and is ready to rock and roll. In the far rear, though, we actually have our elephants along with some mercenary shock cavalry that aren't archers. I'm keeping them far away, so in the meantime, I can use my horse archers to basically kite the enemy army all around the battlefield. So we'll see that as we get started. Now, let's get into it. And so, like I said, we do begin with our horse archers doing their thing as always and kiting the enemy to death. The enemy gets frustrated very, very quickly, and they send forward their cavalry. They only have a couple cavalry contingents, and they get slaughtered. Our horse archers do a very good number on them, and then once we disorientate them and disorganize their formation, we charge in with our melee cavalry and annihilate them. We then continue our kiting of the enemy infantry who are trying to chase us down. They have some Georgian swordsmen, which are actually very good in melee, but their arm is fairly low and their shield isn't all that big, so they will suffer greatly due to our arrows. However, they do have a large contingent of pikemen, like I said earlier, and some elite spears, and some levy spears, which will also be soaking up some arrow fire. So we're getting mixed results, but overall it's going pretty well so far. Here are the Georgian swordsmen getting slaughtered yet again. Very nice. Although they do have a lot of men in their unit. They have over 300 men per unit. Well, no, they have exactly 300 men per unit, I should say. So that will take a lot of arrows to cut them down. In the meantime, though, the enemy general, despite him being extremely skilled, makes the incredible tactical blunder of actually leaving his army's formation and trying to chase down some of our cavalry. It just doesn't work out for him. He gets circled and annihilated. You can see this is a very fast-paced battle, hence why we're zooming out here so I can show you guys some of the battle with the UI turned on. And here, we're basically just doing our old-school Parthian sandwich tactic. We bait the enemy to chase one of our cavalry units, and we come in, smash them with two Parthian melee cav units, and we get some very nice routes happening. We also catch the skirmishers off guard, which would be very nice. Not even worthy of a sandwich there, we just charge straight into them and annihilate them. You'll notice I'm using my median skirmisher cavalry units as melee cav and as charging cavalry. They're not the best shot cav unit, but they're fairly replaceable as they don't come from the high tier Azadan social class. So that's why I'm using them a lot in these melee engagements. Although I do have better shot cavalry, I just try to save that shot cav for more high level targets. Speaking of high level though, we then start to use our elephants. We bring them into the fold. They do massive damage to the enemy and get a lot of kills. However, the main thing I want to use them for is their scare tactics. I'm trying to basically combine our Parthian sandwich with some elephant meat and scare the crap out of the enemy units and get them routing from the battlefield so we don't have to waste time trying to kill them. However, the Armenian pikemen are very disciplined, very professional, they have good armor and good equipment, and despite us surrounding them and doing very devastating rear charges to them, they're still going to inflict fairly heavy casualties against us. I was a little bit slow in my micro. I let my cavalry get engaged for too long against the pikes, and so we did lose quite a few of them. I know some people will be cringing at this micromanagement here, but my thinking was if I could get them all pinned for just a little bit, I can hopefully bring my elephants over and get them routing. But it didn't work out, we were too slow, so we pulled out of that attack. And now we'll start to continue charging into the Armenian units, basically piecemeal. We're trying to kite them away from their main formation, and then we'll continue with our Parthian sandwich charges, which for the most part are pretty successful, although by this time we have run out of ammunition, so we are relying very heavily on our elephants to do the scaring and basically scare the men off the battlefield so we can then run them down with our light cavalry, sorry. But yeah, this battle is actually looking fairly promising despite the enemy Armenians having excellent pikemen. We just have a couple more units that we do need to get routed off the battlefield. They have insanely boosted stats. I'm guessing it's because their general was so good. But their morale is incredible, and so these guys just would not bloody rout for a very long time. So I've cut out a lot of footage here of us doing just constant rear charges. This was a very grindy fight. A lot of our fights are quite grindy at the moment actually, and you'll see a lot of battles throughout this video. We have a lot of armies to deal with in our home territory now. But thankfully the elephants are getting the job done. We only have a couple more enemy pikemen units left, and then eventually we come in with this beautiful charge here. Even with the charge of multiple units, this pikeman unit is still lasting quite a friggin' while. The enemy army has other units routing from the battlefield in the background, but these men are still holding pretty steadfast, and it takes quite a while for them to end up routing. Here are some of the elite spearmen that belong to the Armenians. They didn't require the elephants to come and make them rout, although they did need multiple recharges themselves too. The Armenians are definitely worthy of fighting us, but at the end of the day, Arsakis wins the battle. And here are these stats briefly if you do wish to see them. We did lose quite a few men, nothing too massive, although it was mainly delegated to our mercenary units and our median skirmisher units, so they should be fairly replaceable, all things considered. And our mercenaries are actually coming from the foreigner social class, so that's why I'm trying to use them as well. So that will be very helpful for us. But you can see our elephants did fantastic, losing almost no elephants and taking massive amounts of kills from the enemy. The Armenian army is defeated. We killed their general, although a couple of their units survived. But it's only a couple pathetic units that aren't really worth mentioning. So at the end of the day, we basically wipe out that army, and we will chase it down and kill it fairly soon. In the meantime, though, Arsaces needs to try and have his army recover. The Kartli are marching down from their territory in the northeast, and Arsaces is leading a battle against them right now. However, they do have quite a few cavalry units in this army. They actually have 5, including their general. And so what I did in this battle, which I'm not going to show you guys, I'll just tell you about it. We actually kited them constantly through the entire battle, just using all of our ammunition across all of our units, and then we retreated off the battlefield. We actually lost that battle technically, although at the end of the day we wiped out all of their cav, killed their general, and killed some of their skirmisher units. But the army is still quite massive, and it's going to be a very serious threat. We do have to be careful when we attack it next. But now that army is basically all infantry based, so that is very nice for us indeed. During the end turn phase, the Armenians come in though. This is actually the Armenian king leading his tiny little raiding party that he was hanging out on our eastern border, just chilling and doing some raiding. He's leading it against the city of Hatra, against the Shah, although you will note that the Shah cannot be seen on the battlefield. His unit card is not there. Rumors of the Shah's death or disappearance are spreading throughout the entire army, and his men are completely demoralized. Nobody knows where the Shah is. Do we have another assassination confirmed? We'll have to wait and find out. Despite the army being incredibly nervous, not knowing what the hell has happened to Shah Arsaces II, their sub-commanders will still lead the men on the battlefield, and they will still hopefully get the job done. Again, an all-cavalry army, so we'll be doing the usual bait-and-switch tactics here. We'll be trying to use our Parthian horse archers to kill as many of the enemies as possible. Here, the Armenian king is leading his raiding party far forward of the Kartli reinforcements, and because of that, we're going to really try and push the engagement with him, hopefully get him killed and the rest of his troops slaughtered before the reinforcing Kartli men get on the battlefield. For the most part, it goes pretty well. Right here, we're surrounding the enemy king and getting him bogged down with a bunch of our cavalry units. We send in about 4 or 5 different units, and we're bombarding him with skirmisher fire. So hopefully we should end up killing him here, but at the end of the day, it takes a massive amount of our own resources to do so. But in the meantime, now the rest of the raiding party is destroyed. Just about, we're killing just the last couple units of the raiding party now. However, the Kartli pretty large army is still marching straight towards us, and they're coming right towards the Armenian king. They're basically a relief force here, and they're trying to make sure that their overlord does not die, which is interesting. You think they wouldn't care if he died, but either way, they're coming in and they're trying to stop us assassinating the enemy king. Hopefully we could get the job done. He was wavering for a moment there, although the Kartli is so freaking close. I had to pull most of my cavalry units away so I didn't risk them getting slaughtered by arrow fire. However, this is too juicy of a target for us to ignore, and so we will send in another rear charge into the enemy king. Seeing that charge come though, he routes from the battlefield like the coward he is, and he does not make it off the battlefield. The Armenian king is dead. In the meantime though, we continue our battle tactics. Here we are surrounding some of the enemy infantry that we've managed to peel away from the main Kartli army. And not only are we hitting them with our javelins, but we're also getting a beautiful Parthian sandwich charge here, absolutely decimating spear units, which is interesting because spears should be able to handle cav, but they can't when we use the correct tactics there. The Kartli continue their massive advance towards us, although at this point we still have a lot of ammunition, and we have our elephants. We bring in our elephants and start charging them into the sides and the rear of enemy units that we've managed to peel away from the main battle line. And the main way I do that is by placing a small contingent of cavalry on the flank of the enemy, getting them super close to the enemy and then pulling away, and then we get beautiful engagements like this where we have a bunch of our cavalry and our elephants recharging into the enemy infantry, basically getting us some very easy routes. And once the enemy is routed, our light cavalry can charge them down and slaughter them before they escape off the battlefield. So that is super useful for us, and it's working out perfectly so far in this battle. Despite the Kartli having very good units in this battle, they don't have all that many, considering we wiped out about a quarter of their army in the previous engagement. Plus, the Armenians were basically pointless and didn't really contribute to the battle after we killed their king. We're continuing to do some rear charges here. We annihilate that one single unit. We have another unit very close by, so I'm trying to micromanage another beautiful set of rear charges on them, and we get it very, very nicely. We get it all at the same time too, so the enemy units don't have enough time to brace in either direction. They're basically constantly switching back, looking forward and backwards. They're not sure what to look at. Do you look at the massive amount of cavalry charging at you? Or do you turn around and look at the elephants that are coming in to absolutely stomp the crap out of you? It's a no-win situation for them. They realize it, they rat off the battlefield, and we'll end up wiping them all out with our light cavalry units that are charging and chasing them down. I'm mainly using my more damage units to do that too, by the way, so that is a very helpful tactic because it helps your low-tier units still be quite helpful even though they've been damaged or whatever else is wrong with them. Battle continues though pretty much according to plan. There are still quite a few Kartli units on the battlefield. In addition, their general is present still. However, at this point, their formation is basically completely destroyed. They have no formation whatsoever here. They basically just have a few clumps of infantry scattered around their general, who's trying to rally them into a formation, but we just are not giving them any room to breathe at all. Even though here we don't have our elephants close by to the enemy general, we're still trying to charge in. So while we do that, in the meantime, our elephants further down the hill to the right can get involved in trying to wipe out some of the other enemy units. And it works out pretty good so far. We're wiping out a bunch of their units, although the enemy general is resilient and he will last for quite a while. We're sending in a nice solid charge here of elephants and more cavalry into the mix. However, it won't be enough right here. The enemy Kartli general is still able to resist the elephant charge, and even though he wavers, and I'm not sure if we waver if we get him to rout here. Sorry, no, we do, but his other friendly units that he has do not rout off the battlefield. So we managed to scare the enemy general off the battlefield, but his army is still fighting on, which is very impressive. These Kartli soldiers are definitely not to be underestimated, and I honestly have kind of underestimated them so far. So we will pull out and do another solid rear charge, but now that their general has routed from the battlefield, the men are exhausted from the constant running and chasing of our cavalry is now far too much for them to handle, and the Kartli rout off the battlefield with one final charge of our Syrian heavy elephants into the mix. And ladies and gentlemen, we defend Hatra. Here are the stats if you wish to see them. Again, you will note there is no unit card of Shah Arsakis II. Nobody knows where the hell he's gone. It happened just moments before the battle was initiated. He was last seen in his tent getting some rest after defeating that last Armenian army. But now, nobody knows where he is, and rumors of his demise and his disappearance reverberate throughout the kingdom. The people are terrified and they have no idea what's going on. However, the Armenians and the Kartli do not let up, and even though we killed the Armenian king and we wiped out another massive Kartli army, the Kartli continue their relentless assault against us, and they attack the capital of Salukia, which is currently being defended by Arsakis III, who is just a general at this time, and the large garrison under his command. It's going to be a very big battle. We have to win this one. If we lose this, then the campaign's pretty much over. We have no income, nowhere to go from here. It's all on Arsakis III to carry the torch of Parthia. So let's do it.
These walls will hold. They will hold for us as long as we stand upon them. For it is not stone or wood that keep our enemy out, but our blood and sweat and our resolve. To arms then. Make ready, men.
Make ready, Sonny Jim. There's Arsakis III himself with his own little headband. It's just a thing of the Arsakis boys. They all love their headbands. But anyway, here is the defense of Salukia, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a big one. We have a very large city to defend. However, we just don't have the men for it, and Arsakis III realizes this, and he actually gives up the walls, at least for half of the city. What he does instead is he sets up along the riverbank that runs straight through the center of town in order to defend the victory point of the capital here. We will go over the units that we have as the battle progresses, but basically in the rear we have our elite professional Babylonian reserves. In front of them we have some more experienced Persian or Mesopotamian militia units. And then in front of them we have a massive contingent of archers near the river, along with some basically levy peasant spearmen. So basically the citizens of the city are taking up arms and they will be fighting on the banks of the river here. In the meantime, though, the Kartli army will be marching towards the city walls completely unopposed. They have plenty of siege equipment. They have excellent infantry. They have fantastic swordsmen, very good spearmen, all of which are elite and they can afford very easily because they're playing on a high difficulty. So just holding the city walls just was not an option, although we do have some Parthian horse archers down below who will be harassing the enemy infantry as they come down off the walls and try to take the main gate. We've also set up some traps for them in case they manage to sneak in some cavalry after their main assault begins. Our horse archers take some fire though, and so we will respond by forming a Cantabrian circle. That way they can take a little bit of cover while also continuing to harass the enemy infantry, who are taking some fairly decent casualties while trying to capture the main gate, although they will still conquer the main gate at the end of the day and we can't hold it. Thousands of Kartli infantry are over the wall at this point, and it's basically time for our horse archers to pull back. After they do that though, their river battle begins. Our archers begin by pouring hundreds if not thousands of arrows upon the enemy, along with our levy population in front of them. And in front of them we have two wooden walls on the far side, well on our side of the river I should say, but on the far side of the river the Kartli are beginning their swarm across the river. They have thousands of men coming at us. They also have some cavalry units coming in to get involved. Hopefully the wall will be enough to keep them at bay for now. They even have their own horse archer contingents coming in to get involved, although our archers are just way too numerous. Despite their low training, the massive amount of arrows that they're sending towards the enemy is dealing devastating damage to them, and their horse archers and a lot of their infantry will get absolutely cut down before they can even get across the riverbank. Plus, we've also set some beautiful fiery traps that are definitely very hot on the enemy on their side of the bank. So that's going very well so far. In the meantime, on the far side of the city, the enemy actually sent a couple of small squads of light infantry to capture the walls surrounding our position. So I sent out our horse archers that we actually had as part of the garrison to cut them down and get into a melee engagement with them. There are only some lightly armored units, so even though our horse archers are lightly armored, they should still do pretty well and manage to push those units out of the outskirts of the city over there. In the meantime, the main battle is continuing with our archers starting to get low on ammunition, although they're still doing fairly heavy damage to the enemy. However, you can see this fire is going on across almost the entire wall that we have along the river. The enemy infantry are advancing through. They actually have several holes in the walls now. Now the real battle begins, where it's infantry on infantry. You can see we have two major points of contention going on here. At the top of the screen we have a major blob of enemy infantry breaking through, and then to the bottom we actually have a bridge that the enemy is trying to cross, and they're still fording the water next to it as well. So they'll be going around the wall there, plus they will also already be breaking through the wall. So like I said, we basically have a proper engagement happening, and our levy spearmen don't last very long at all. So pretty quickly I'm going to be sending in reinforcements. These are our slightly better trained militia units that will be getting involved against the elite Kartli infantrymen. The fire is very disorientating though, and because of that there's no formations involved in this battle. And we're basically going to see a chaotic mess of basically one-on-one combat here. As the battle continues, we actually sent in one of our Babylonian contingents towards the bridge to try and help out there, as the enemy was breaking through slowly but surely. All of our archers have run out of ammunition just about, although we will see one unit come in to be helpful later on. And all of our militia units are now completely engaged in melee. And you can see this is absolutely chaotic. It is a slaughter going on here. Every man is desperately fighting for his life. Parthians are fighting for the city, and the Kartli fighting for their masters. But in the meantime, our horse archers have wiped out the light infantry squads that were in the city, and now they're conducting rear charges into the enemy's main blob, and we will see some units routing because of this. Even though it's only horse archers rear charging them, that will help us out a bit. Seeing how helpful this was, Assassination III actually leads his shock cavalry through a small hole in the enemy's lines and gets up on the hill behind them, and then he will initiate some rear charges into them as well. This hopefully is the key to victory here, as by this time he's actually committed his Babylonians into the melee as well. And not only is he rear charging them, but he's coordinating the rear charge with one of his archer units that has just a little bit more ammunition left and is firing fire arrows into the enemy in order to intimidate and scare them. Basically, they're trying to make all of their units rout off the battlefield terrified rather than kill them right here and now. And it works perfectly. We get a massive rout of cowardly infantry across the entire battlefield. It wasn't enough to make them all rout instantly though, and it did take a second recharge. But now finally, Assassination III leads the defense of Salukia, ladies and gentlemen. Parthia still has some hope moving forward. However, nobody knows where the Shah is. There are the stats if you do wish to see them. You can see how Babylonians didn't get too involved for the most part, and even though where they did get involved, they actually did really good. So I'm really enjoying using them, and I hope to keep using them in future infantry-based armies as we move forward. But there is the defense of Salukia. We ended up killing a good chunk of the enemy army, although you can see on the campaign map to the right there, the Kartli have another massive army that's pretty close by. Although hopefully, since we did so well in this siege, we'll be able to deal with it again. And here we have it, finally, confirmation of what happened to Shah Arsaces II comes in, and we have an assassination attempt on his life. However, thankfully, the Shah is actually alive. He does not follow the fate of Arsaces I, at least not yet. He's merely wounded at this time. He was not killed in the assassination. Arsaces' sub-commanders did not tell the standard rank-and-file soldier what happened to him so as to not make them all fearful. However, the fear still ran through the ranks anyway, but thankfully the men were able to hold the cities of Hatra and Salukia, and in the meantime Shah Arsaces was recovering from his wounds of the assassination attempt. He will make a full recovery, although he will need quite a few months of rest. So thankfully, we do not lose another Shah in such a manner, at least not yet. Perhaps we will at some point, who knows what's going to happen. But in the meantime, the Armenian rebels of Tushpa are sending a massive army against us. Although it's mainly filled with just levies, they have some fantastic cataphract units that join their army. Whether it's mercenaries or not, who knows? All we know is that they are marching on Hatra yet again, so we'll have to defend that city. Meanwhile, at Palmyra, though, we actually see no further sign of Armenian forces in the area, so the governor of Palmyra is going to march forward on the city of Jura with just a few mercenary units. However, he's doing this because the garrison at Jura has not had enough time to be built up by the Armenians, and so we will finally reconquer Jura after having lost it for about 2 years now. So now we'll have the city back, and we took it for a pretty cheap cost, all things considered. We just used a few Syrian heavy archers and some elephants, and all was well. We even just auto-resolved it away, so that's super helpful for us. Next up, though, the Armenians launch a counterattack. Another army comes down from Syria. They give us absolutely no time whatsoever to recover, man. Oh, this was frustrating. But immediately, this army will be attacking the city of Jura. Although it isn't attacking the city of Jura directly, it's actually attacking the governor of Palmyra, who is outside of the city. And we're just going to auto-resolve that away, but we don't lose the city of Jura, which is the main point there. They only killed the army, and then they started marching towards Hatra, so that's interesting. But in the meantime, Hatra is once again being assaulted, although the city is being assaulted directly this time. Vishtaspa, the nobleman, is leading the main Parthian army here. He has to hold this off in order to save Hatra, so let's do it. And the battle begins extremely quickly, with the Armenian rebels sending in a massive cavalry charge down the main street of defense that we have here. We have a lot of traps here and some more makeshift walls, so that will definitely disrupt their charge. will even get us a few extra kills, and our archers will be able to do a serious number on them. Although the Armenians at this time have very good cavalry, so we're really going to try and prioritize bombarding them with our archer fire. Now, while the enemy assaulted the town, we actually sent out our massive horse archer contingent right behind them, which will basically chase down their light infantry like these archers here, and then we'll also send them all the way around the city again to try and intercept the other Armenian allies that will be joining this particular group of Armenian rebels during the assault on our city. And we actually sent in some medium skirmishers along with our horse archers to do some of the melee engagements. And in the meantime, the enemy infantry have now fully engaged our own infantry. They're starting to break through our walls. However, they're breaking through way too slowly, and as such, we'll actually send in our medium skirmishers to recharge the enemy infantry at the main street here, which will cause them to rout, and it will help us massively in this battle. Meanwhile, down one of the side streets, the enemy general has been bogged down by our own spearmen, and because of that we get a beautiful recharge with our noble horse archer cataphracts into his own cataphract unit. He has a very heavily armored unit, however, this particular Armenian general is a pretty hectic coward, and he actually routs from the battlefield very, very quickly, despite not taking all that many losses, so we'll actually end up killing him before he can escape from the battlefield, and our noble horse archers definitely help us massively there. Although we still have a massive amount of infantry to deal with, so our horse archers on the left there are busy chasing down those Armenian reinforcements. Although now we just have one major blow of Armenian rebels to deal with, although they are starting to break through, and so we will have to divert some spearmen and archers to try and defend that section of the streets, while our elephants and cataphracts get in position to recharge them as soon as possible. You can see the Armenian reinforcements are also getting very close to the town. However, our horse archers have a lot of ammunition, so they'll be able to cut them down before they can get any closer, really. And even though they're jumping through all of these different obstacles and stuff, they'll still be firing their bows like it's nothing, getting lots of kills. They've already wiped out some Armenian units there, you can see on the ground. Moving forward, you can see this final Armenian reinforcement unit is getting absolutely obliterated. Despite them having a decent sized shield, they have no armor, and the shield is pretty pathetic in the long run, and they get annihilated by our horse archers. In the meantime, the last contingent of Armenian rebel infantry is still engaging in our side street here. We've now sent forward militia spearmen to try and hold the main battle line. While that's happening, our elephants are doing massive rear charges into the enemy infantry. And while that happens, that's way too much for them to handle. Their general is dead by this point. The Armenian reinforcing general is dead. And these infantry will rout from the battlefield. And once again, the city of Hatra is saved. And there we have it, another decisive victory against the Armenians and their allies. We ended up wiping out the entire army of Armenian rebels that came at us. The Armenians themselves, who also joined in the fighting, were also killed to a man, so that helps us out massively. And you can see the stats if you do wish to see so, but we only lost a few hundred men. That's basically a theme with our battles. We'll lose about 300 men per battle, and so that means that we can continue the fight against the Armenians as time goes forward. There's our decisive victory, and we're going to ransom the captives. I've been doing this for pretty much every battle we've had with Armenia, just so I get a lot of money in the short term. Plus, it also makes them a little bit more prone to accepting peace terms if the time does come. But now that we have dealt with those units down there, Vishtaspa is going to be attacking the Armenian army to our southwest that was just outside of Jura. This is the army that they sent from Syria that killed the governor Palmyra. Thankfully, they didn't retake Jura though, and instead they basically just sat on the side of this river here, which I believe is the Euphrates, and were just chilling out. So we ended up fighting the battle manually and kited them to death. I won't bother showing it to you guys though, we've done a lot of kiting today. But thankfully, General Fishtaspa was very effective with his horse archers and basically wins the day pretty cleanly. We only lost a few hundred men, most of which belonged to the garrison of Jura, and for it, we wipe out the entire Armenian army that came from Syria. In the meantime, though, Salukia was once again defended from that second massive Kartli army, although I can't show you any footage of it because my footage got corrupted because of it. But it didn't matter because the enemy army actually glitched out in the middle of the fight and I was able to kill them very easily. So you're not missing much at all, although our Babylonians did see more of the fighting due to our garrison being depleted from before. And so Arsaces III will start creating an infantry-based army. He is definitely more of an infantry-minded general. He's been using them in these city defenses a few times now, and he prefers infantry and the professionalism of the Babylonian spearmen. Up in the north, we have another massive Armenian army coming towards Hatra. This should be the last Armenian army for a while, though. We haven't seen any others on the horizon. Hopefully there aren't any more in Syria, although Vishtaspa was going to lead a counterattack and take Thapsakos. Right now, it's just not possible, so instead he has to pull back to the east once again, defend Hatra from yet another Armenian army coming right at us, although the Kartli don't seem to have any armies in the area, and this hopefully, us killing this last Armenian army means that we should be able to begin launching at least a single counterattack, if not a few, back into Syria and possibly into the Armenian heartland. I did fight this battle manually, but I won't bother showing it to you guys. It was basically just another kite and drag fest where we kited the enemy to death and killed them pretty easily overall. We took a few casualties, most of which though belonged to our horse archers or the garrisonmen of the town, so pretty much things are looking pretty nice for us. We then send Vishtaspa to northern Mesopotamia to take the city of Edessa. It should be a very easy battle. However, for now, he will just encircle the city and wait to assault it for another time because we have good news. Shah Arsaces II has recovered from his assassination wounds, and upon the return of Arsaces III with his Babylonian contingent into the city of Salukia, we will institute a bunch of basically celebrations throughout all of Mesopotamia, in particular at the capital of Salukia, in honor of Arsaces II recovering from his wounds and from the awesome defenses that we've actually had and held very successfully against the invasion of the Armenians. So Arsaces himself will be organizing these games that will be instituted throughout the entire province. Palmyra will also get a little bit as well, although that area is still recovering from the invasion of Armenia for sure. In the meantime though, Salukia was absolutely devastated by the sieges that happened, and so Arsaces II is collaborating with one of his chief architects, a unique and mysterious Parthian going by the name of Manco, who has worked very closely with Arsaces II to help institute new reforms throughout the entire city and completely redesign it. And now the city, ladies and gentlemen, is known as Ctesiphon. Ctesiphon will be the new capital of Parthia, the capital of hopefully a brand new empire. It will take a little bit longer for the rest of the city to be finished, but in the meantime, Ctesiphon will now be known to all Parthians as the new capital of Parthia. Salukia is now no more. The time of the Greeks in the east is over, and the time for Parthia's rising is at hand. But ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have time for today, so thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one. Big shout out to our architect Manco for the help with Ctesiphon, by the way. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.